Awesome. All right. Well, this is our first podcast episode, quote
Sure.
unquote.
Yeah.
For anybody
Um,
who's listening, we recorded like maybe 10 episodes. It's like I guess a trial run. I don't think we thought they were going to be a trial run
yeah.
initially, but that's what they ended up being, and
hmm
it worked out really well. We talked about a bunch of fun stuff, but I think now with this format, we'll actually like put it out.
Yeah. Hopefully, we'll see.
We'll see.
Did you want to do any talk beforehand about what any changes we're making or anything?
We should probably just say what the podcast is, since all of the like we're familiar with knowing what it is. This is going to be most people's first episode, so they have
Sure.
no idea
Are
what
we
we're
just
here.
going for it? This is number one.
I think we should just go for it. This is number one.
Okay. I'm gonna play the album while we're doing it because I did my vibe listens and I didn't do my nerd brain analysis listens. One thought I had, this can go in or not, listening to it together, that adds like a whole extra hour to our process. I don't know if that vibes
With
you.
Riverside free version, we only have like 2 hours per episode.
2 hours? Dang.
So
I mean, you can just end it and then, you know,
yeah.
and then redo it. But they didn't think of that, the idiots. I think I can share a screen if I wanted to. Okay.
They didn't account for Joe Rogan being like, "All right, guys, let's stop and start twice."
Yeah. Yeah, Joe Rogan uses the Riverside.
He uses Riverside while people
just a
are in
really-
his room.
It's a really good OBS scene where it just looks like other people are there. There's actually nobody there. He's not in the room. He's just in his office chair.
He has them at a different angle so that they can be in a green screen.
You know. The green screen. Can you look just in that direction and talk as if you're talking to somebody? That's what we should do, is make sure
We
that
should
I'm
start like the
always going
dumbest
this.
podcast conspiracy theories.
Maybe that's what this turns into.
Joe
We're not gonna
Rogan
talk
has
about
been a
music
Zoom
anymore
podcast this whole time.
this whole time. I gotta find some evidence on that. Well, okay.
All right. So should I explain what it is?
Sure, you go for it.
So this is Musicsplaining, and basically we are going to be reviewing albums, and that's it. Nah.
Perfect.
But for real though, me and Isaiah are we're nerds. We're nerds for music, and we are
Facts.
Isaiah is one of the only people I know who does the same thing that I do, where we actually listen to full albums,
Yeah, nobody
like
does
multiple
that anymore.
times, and like we have like thoughts and opinions on like an actual album as opposed to like a playlist.
Yeah.
And we are both songwriters. We both make music a lot, and so the insights that you and me have talked about from an album review standpoint, they are different than what I've seen from other like music reviewers. They're not really talking about things compositionally or like they're not appraising lyrics from the process of like what is it like to write lyrics.
Yeah,
like
a lot of
this.
it is from like the perspective of like a music enjoyer that maybe has some interest in writing music, but that's not like they're not like, oh yeah, like T-Pain doesn't do album reviews, I don't think.
No.
Like a lot of it is from the perspective of a music listener, which is, you know, like that's most people, so it's not like a not valid thing. But we are musicians, and so our opinion is more important and better than
Yeah.
other people. So that's why you should listen.
I would also say another thing that makes this a little bit more interesting is you and me, we have an interesting dynamic of we like a lot of the same things, but for completely different reasons.
Yeah.
And then in some regards, we're completely opposite.
It's so weird how often like one of us will be like, oh, you know this weird thing, and it's like, oh yes, specifically that, I love that. And then different times we'll be like, oh, you love this thing, and we'll be like, I hate that. I hate that thing.
In the original version of this podcast, we had like maybe 2 or 3 episodes where we were like straight up like I think we had a gimmick where it's like we weren't allowed to we had a thing where at the beginning of every episode we would shake hands and be like, we promise we
Make
will
sure
still
we
be
don't
friends.
hate each other by the end. Yeah, there's one episode where you were like, I don't know about that because I hated this album.
To be fair, there was it wasn't just like you. It wasn't just you hated an album that I loved. It's like this album means a lot to me. I have a tattoo of it on my arm, and you're saying
I give it like a 3 or something. Yeah, that was so funny. Yeah, so we're gonna be doing that same album, but this time I don't like it even more.
Yeah, but
surprise.
we're probably gonna tone down some of the like. Let's just pick albums that we know are gonna make the other person angry.
Maybe
and be
start
a little bit more,
and then slowly work our way out.
Yeah, but then when we started talking about doing it remotely, because the first version we did it in person, one of the first albums that I mentioned that I would love for us to do is the one we're going to be talking about today, which is Lonesome Crowded West by Modest Mouse, which you instantly were like, yes, let's do that.
Yeah, a great starting point. We both will like this album a lot.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll have differing thoughts. What is your intro to Modest Mouse and your intro to this album?
My intro to Modest Mouse was most people's. It was good news for people who like bad news, just because that was the one that was the most popular. I think it was. Yeah. I think it literally was. We had a version of Rock Band that had Float on. But like just a little backstory. I have a sister who's like 12 years older than me, and when we were playing that on Rock Band, I think she literally was like, "Oh, this is like okay, but this isn't like one of their best songs." So because she actually went to like the OG Modest Mouse shows in like Seattle, and so she got to see this album played live, and now, having listened to it, I was like, dang, that would be like a really cool show to go see. Like in their 20s, Modest Mouse. Yeah. Just screaming in like 90s Seattle.
Yeah. Just like you're like 5 rows back and Isaac Brock's spit is just getting all over your face from him just screaming at every second.
Yeah. It's so good. And there is an interesting thing to talk about with this album specifically, because it is like a Washington album. And
yeah, for sure.
We are like at this point in their career, Modest Mouse, they're in Portland, and they're pretty much going to stay in Portland. But at this time period, they were Issaquah. It was Issaquah, Washington. And they actually recorded this album about 10 minutes from where you and me live in Olympia.
Crazy. Yeah.
So there's a lot of, and as we go through this, there's a lot of stuff where I'm like,
specifically do you live? Address?
I'm not gonna say.
Okay.
Dang it. But there's so many things about this that are like, I understand when he's singing about like trailer parks or like a trucker's atlas. I'm like, I know people like this.
Yeah, I feel like my intro to Modest Mouse is my uncle would love to tell me over and over again when I was a kid. He's like, Modest Mouse is like he would overplay it of like the reason they got famous is because of me. And what it was is that when I think after their first album, he like put them onto a radio station that was like a little bit larger than them, and so like they got a kick from that because he was friends with the some people at the radio station, and so you tell your little nephew like, I made this band famous that you like so much, and it's all because of me. When in reality, I'm sure it was helpful, but I don't think he is the reason why they have success.
I don't think everybody hated this album and then we're like, oh, they're on the radio now, then I'll try it out.
Wait. He likes this album?
Local radio station in Olympia likes
what? Yeah.
I did read the Wikipedia article for this record. I doubt every record we go through will have an entry.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was funny. So it says, Lonesome Crowded West is the second studio album by American rock band Modest Mouse, released in November 18th, 1997 by Up Records. The two towers pictured in the album's cover are in Weston, Seattle. Described as having a white trash aesthetic, Lonesome Crowded West received positive reviews from critics and appeared on several lists of the best albums of the 1990s. The album was reissued by Isaac Brock by Glacial Place label in 2014, and along with Modest Mouse's 1996 debut, This Is a Long Drive for Someone with Nothing to Think About, which I think is also another great record.
That is, I'll just say, my favorite Modest Mouse album is their first album.
I think this one is...
I think that was the first one I listened
to. They're so close for me that like sometimes this one peaks up a little bit above it, but then like that first one has Dramamine.
Yeah. Such
so
a good song.
It's difficult, but yeah, it is interesting to see now, like, where, like, how much of a cultural impact, like, this band and, like, this era of this band had.
Yeah.
Like, Matty Healy from the 1975 just released, like, his top 100 albums on, like, an Instagram reel or an Instagram story. And one of his, like, top 50 albums is Lonesome Crowded West. And you're like, okay, that I can see how that checks. Yeah. Of course, there's also
white trash bled across the sea.
Yeah.
Into,
now it's white rubbish.
We can't. I'm going to quit the podcast if you say something like that again. Anyways, yeah.
Isaiah is a racist against British people.
True. Not true, but true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Modest Mouse. I love this album. I love, because I get why the first thing is just like, oh, white trash. I feel like that's maybe apt, maybe not. I get it that's the kind of the vibe of just like what this white boy yapping about with these like guitars. Mm-hmm. But it feels, it's so hard to describe as not like if you're not from Washington, but it just feels like Auburn, Washington.
Yes. Yes. It's also like there's a small Pitchfork documentary like that they came out with a long time ago, I think like 2009 or something like that, but it's on their YouTube channel, and they talked about like the writing for this album, and he predicted a lot of stuff. Like he predicted a lot of like, because this was kind of like edge of like tech boom Seattle, like before all the big like Amazon tech companies moved in. And there are like in the first song, he's kind of talking about, we'll get into the songs in a second, but he talks a lot about like the malls of America, and he said a lot of the themes on this record were inspired by the sort of, I think there was in Issaquah, there was like the most fertile soil in America was discovered there, and then they put a strip mall on top of it, and within like 4 or 5 years that strip mall like completely shut down, and then they started building another strip mall next to it, and so there's a little bit of actual like punk roots of like anti-establishment or like this is being overdeveloped, and like just voicing the frustrations of that in a very visceral, not polished way.
Yeah, because it feels like a lot of punk stuff is like it's very much like stick it to the man. General punk music, it's just like injustice, punch this person. But it feels like Modest Mouse is like punk, but they're not talking about anybody. They're just like this thing, and they're just yelling like out in an open field, which is a vibe. But I feel like I honestly appreciate their lyricism more than a lot of punk music.
Yes.
Because punk music, which this is, I can't think of a better way to say this, but like punk music definitely has an agenda of like, I think this thing is bad. I think you should think that this thing is bad too, which, is, it is what it is, whether you like the music or not. but it just feels like it literally feels like their music is just like this sucks and I'm just gonna yell about it now, and if
Yeah,
you want to
it's a
listen to
lot
go
more
ahead.
introspective than like
Yeah.
actual punk lyrics. But then there's also like a this honestly I think one of the highlights of this record are the lyrics. Like I think
Yeah.
musically it's great, but when you look at the lyrics, it's like
Let's have another Orange Julius. Best
yeah, like I
best lyric.
in every single song in every single song I have like a tab on my notes here for like here are my favorite lyrics from this song because
Yeah.
there's so much and I think that's what keeps it from being just like a Seattle punk record or
Yeah.
like an 80s style like punk record is there's a bit of like melancholy to it that like punk doesn't have. It's like
Yeah.
what you said. There it's punk is normally like very anti-establishment and like let's take down this thing whereas like this
It
is
sucks
more
that this
like
thing was built.
this sucks and I'm sad about it. It's like a
Yeah.
lot more introspective
It's like
about the
because it's
situation.
for sure influenced by like the grunge scene at the time, especially in Washington.
Yes.
I'm not too sure where this falls in the like timeline of everything, but it's because it's not grunge.
No.
It's for sure very inspired by grunge, but it feels like it still keeps a lot of like punk roots of like I'm still gonna talk about this stuff and I'm not just gonna like, grunge is sometimes like I'm gonna yell about nothing and that's okay and this is just how I feel. I'm not really talking about anything. Versus this is still like trying to like have like a salient point. But it's like I don't, I'm just not gonna say it in a way that's well communicated or makes sense to anybody unless you like
Yeah.
really are looking down, and you're not gonna hear what I'm saying just by listening. But I feel like it's a interesting in between. It's like they wanted to be a grunge band, but they didn't have big enough amps, and so they're just like, well, I guess we'll just play harder and
I guess
sing
we'll
louder.
use the whammy bar a bunch and
Yeah.
play a bunch of harmonics.
Yeah.
What one question before we jump into like the record as a whole? What there's a very specific type of lyric that is like in this record a bunch where it's very storyteller-esque. It's
Yeah.
very and then there's also just like off the wall sort of like indie lyrics that are just like
Yeah.
what borderline what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
And but it works and that's the thing is it works. But you and me have 100% seen bands in this area try to do that and it
fail
doesn't
miserably.
work.
Yeah.
So
a lot of like I think this is kind of more your world, so you can speak to this. But I think a lot of indie pop that wants to be inspired by punk, they'll do this where they're like, "Oh, this is kind of the lyric that I want to write, but I need to make it vague and mysterious, so I'm going to take away these words of it and I'm just going to like say the essence of it kind of, but then I'm going to make it even more mysterious." And then it kind of gets lost because you're like making a point to be like that versus like I feel like this and I'm not going to refine that thought. I'm just going to say it.
yeah, there's a lot it's interesting because yeah, now I would say that a lot of what people call indie music is pop music with an indie aesthetic.
Yeah.
Whereas this is actually like indie alternative, like
for sure.
I don't know if it was pre sub pop, but it was like, or if it wasn't pre, it was early sub pop.
Yeah.
But even just like the lyrics, my brain's the burger and my heart's the coal. Like,
Yeah.
you get weird stuff like that, and there's a difference between you're a pop writer, and I love pop music. Out of the two of us, I would say I'm more of the pop apologist. But even in that, there's a difference between you're writing a pop song and you have this indie aesthetic versus you actually are writing these songs like you don't care what anyone thinks.
You actually think, let's have another Orange Julius, thick syrup, standing in lines. The malls are the soon-to-be ghost towns. Like, he didn't try to make it sound like that. That's just exactly what he wanted to say.
They all went down
like
and
that.
they all went down and did the porcupine. Everybody was feeling high.
Yeah.
We need to stop. We need to just jump into the songs because we're gonna keep
let's just start
referencing
talking
all
about
the lyrics.
Keith. Let's talk about the first song.
Yeah. So the
The
first
name of
song
it is
the first song is Teeth Like God's Shoeshine, and it's 7 minutes long. And I love this as a track opener because it's almost a microcosm of like what the entire album is.
Yeah.
There's like a little bit of you can hear the punk influence. You can
For sure.
hear the sort of like his vocal performance and stuff like that. And then 20 seconds in, it stops
Yeah.
so that the guitar player can go,
Yeah.
"Bee, boo, bee," and then it goes into,
Yeah.
goes into a country song.
Yeah. Basically.
And it's like that level of just like pure whiplash. There's a couple of
Yeah.
other moments in this record that do it, but it's like this is the ride that you're on.
Yeah.
You will not be going for something very simple. So it's like it almost feels like it was made to like push people away who weren't gonna vibe with
Yeah.
this kind of experience.
That's what it feels like for sure. It feels like either in maybe not in the writing of the song, but the placing on the track list. It's like a litmus test. If you can get past this, you'll like this album.
Yeah.
Like if you can understand what they're going for with this song, then you'll have a great time for the rest of it. But if it's like, what's going on? What's the point? Why even write that part of the song if it's only going to be for this long, and then you're just going to go back like into something different? Like, if you're having those questions, then you're not going to have a good time.
Yeah. And I think it does a lot to it jumps pretty extremely to like the different kinds of aesthetics that it's going through. So like the lyrics that he has in that, it's very like, it's not country. It's like almost literally like Western. It's like what a 20-year-old living in Seattle in the 90s thought the Wild West was.
Yeah. Well, it feels like, because a lot of this wasn't as true in the time that this was put out. It's a lot more true now. But like what country music is from people who aren't from the country and don't live in the country and have never experienced the country. And so to me, like this being the Lonesome Crowded West is one, such a good title for the album.
Yeah.
Such a good name for the album. So perfect. But like the idea of country, of like out here in the West country, not in terms of like open field farms, but like this is the country, like America, like generally how people, like the general population, it feels more honest to the average person than a lot of like, you know, country music. Not that all country music is bad. But I think Western is a good way to put it. Where it's very much like, what's the, oh great, I can't think of a name of a really famous band, so I'm not even going to embarrass myself by trying to reference that. But it's like it feels like an evolution. The way that sometimes you hear a song and you're like, if John Lennon was alive, he would be writing music like this. This is like, if like the old like 50s country artists were alive and like they kept going, I feel like some of them would turn into this kind of music.
Yeah, because there is an element of like it's so hard to pin down. I feel so bad for anybody who worked at a record store when this came out and they were
Yeah.
charged with like putting it in a category, because it's so like, it is country in a technical
Local.
term.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
local.
Local music. Thank God for that.
After they're whew.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like there's some country vibes to the lyrics, and then at like 1:30 it goes to this like sort of like weird indie vibe. It almost has, for a brief moment, it almost has like a chuggy Beach Boys vibe.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like
and-
honestly there is a little bit of Beach Boys in this. Just a little bit of like when they like to get weird. I feel like Modest Mouse likes them weird parts.
Yeah, because like it starts with the sort of bigger punky part, dies down to just harmonics on a guitar, jumps back up to the big
Back
punky
up.
part, and then goes to sort of like an indie like Beach Boys switch up, and then it drops to the down tempo emo part that is like most of the song.
Yeah. Which is, I feel like, a good like emotional like point of the album of like but for real most of it is just
Yeah.
Just lyrically, a lot of it is like the vibe is down. The party ain't popping, guys. Um, I'm sure that's a lyric they would use. Um, it just gets so it's like it's hard to describe, but like I think it's even an injustice to just talk about the lyrics of like reading them on a page. Like you have to listen to him
Yeah.
singing it. You have to listen to the actual song to get it. Like the lyric doesn't make sense unless you hear him saying it the way that he's saying it. Because some of them it's like drab and down, and some of it he's just like screaming this thing that like wouldn't make any sense to read on a paper, but when he's like screaming it, it makes sense that he just
Yeah.
feels this way, doesn't know what to say, and then like that just is what comes out.
Like it doesn't feel like right unless you hear him with like his lisp being like,
Mm-hmm.
here's a man with teeth like God's shoeshine. He
Yeah.
sparkles, shimmers, shines,
Mm-hmm.
and he has like a little bit of a lisp on the end.
Spark time. Yeah, I love his voice. I feel like this is a great, such a good example of like your voice. It's so much more important that you just sing like how you talk than it is that you like put on a stylization of anything, because it's gonna sound more honest, it's gonna feel more honest, it's gonna get across so much better if just the way that you talk turns into the way that you sing, and then you make it sound good. It's not like, okay, you take the way you talk, you put it over here, and then you like copy somebody else that you really like just go with it. And he's like, even to this day, like their newer albums, he's still not maybe as the same, but like that's how he talks and
I
that's
mean,
how he sings.
he's like kind of the same. I recently saw a video. It's a Reverb, the music
Mm-hmm.
reseller company. They did a video where they did a tour of his studio in Portland, and he's like, "Oh yeah, yesterday I used this gas can guitar." And I wrote a song called Doom Scrolling where I sing in a weird Elvis voice about doom scrolling on your phone. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know how much he's changed. Like, I
Yeah.
think it's kind of
Yeah.
still there.
I think it's pretty much the same. I really enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So first track.
I want to keep talking about this song. The problem is we're almost 30 minutes into this
Yeah.
recording, and
One
we have 14 more songs to go.
Yeah.
So
This is such a long album. I love it.
yeah,
I love long albums.
but
I feel like it justifies it, because it's not necessarily about that they have this huge broad range of, oh my gosh, every song is so different. It's just that like it's like the emotions of it can't fully be expressed, and then unless you just like sit down, shut up, I'm gonna scream everything I can think of right now.
yeah,
And I feel like it's better for being long. I feel like the album is.
yeah.
Okay, so next song.
Heart Cook's Brain, which is funny. The arrangement of this album is great because they go from the craziest possible arrangement to like the most simple.
Yep. Like one of the simpler songs on the record.
Yeah. And it doesn't really get much crazier than like what you get in the first like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Of course you get
It kind
like
of
the
feels
lyric-
like it's going to explode in the same way as the first one, and then it just dies down and just kind of chills.
yeah, and you're just like, "Oh, okay. That was it the whole time." But
Yeah.
even just in stuff like this, there's a turntable in the intro of this like weird
I
indie
love
song
that.
from the 90s, and when people talk about like actual indie stuff, this is kind of what I imagine
Yeah.
where
It's just throwing stuff at the wall.
yeah, it's throwing stuff at the wall, and you know, like this is a song that sounds like what you were saying. This sounds like Washington to me.
For sure. You found a turnstile in one of those antique, when you just like drive up in the Olympics and there's just like a log cabin that's like an antique store or something that like nobody has ever lived there. Like nobody lives within 30 miles of there, but they had the same people come in every day. And it's like, oh, hey, Frankie. And it's like this dude that lives an hour away that just like hops by this antique store because the coffee there is nice. And
Yeah.
like you find a turnstile there, you go back, and then you're like, okay, my weird band, we live in Seattle, and like we're in the basement of this apartment. And so like I'm just gonna go like this on these things that we recorded onto our 8-track or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that is the Washington vibe. That's such
Yes.
a Washington, and that's exactly what it sounds like. He didn't like try to make it like that, try to be super different. Like it just sounds like this is what we are, and so this is what the music is going to sound like.
Yeah, and there's definitely there's a lack of polish to it that it's so hard to like nail down exactly how you would even try to do it because
Yeah.
like I as somebody who like records people often there are so many takes of like the guitar in this record where I'm like that sounds like a flubbed take. I
Yeah,
think
you got off
done,
and then you stopped for a second and then you started.
you got
again.
it was like
Yeah.
even just like a strum it'll be like da, 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 da,
Yeah.
like you'll hear
Yeah.
the griminess of it but
Which is real. It's probably that like
Yeah.
I don't want to do another take, and so they just kept it like that.
but like those are the things now where I'm just like, oh, at this song, at this bar, the third strum is a little bit off.
Yeah,
Like I
and
now
it's not
know
like that for the
those
whole
things.
song. It's not like they did that.
No,
It's just
but it's like those have become like my favorite like landmarks of the songs.
which I love that. I try to, because I think the reason why that's so good is because they didn't try to do that. They're like, oh, dude, mess up on this part because it aligns with my lyrics about talking about messing up, and like they didn't do that. They were just
No.
like, oh dang, I don't want to do another take.
They were
And then
kids
it
from
happens
Seattle,
that-
and they're like,
yeah,
that was a good take, right?
yeah. They're like, that's pretty good, right? Yeah.
And the
that's good,
engineer
right?
was like, sure.
Yeah, I gotta go talk to my dealer. Like, just left. Yeah. Any more thoughts about that song specifically?
I mean, I think my favorite lyrics from this song is in this place that I call home, my brain's the cliff and my heart's the bitter buffalo.
Yeah, I love that.
Like that's
Just the-
that is
yeah.
so weird. It's so weird and like you said, it doesn't make sense me saying it out loud,
Yep.
but when he says
When you
it
hear it, yep.
and he's got his like doubled vocal, the whole album, there's no harmonies. There's just
Yep.
him doubling his own vocal. Which is another like punk element, but it is just like my brain's the cliff and
Yeah.
my heart's the bitter buffalo, and it's just
Yeah.
like he's got this weird like
My heart's the
country
bitter buffalo.
southern
Yeah.
drawl, but it's
Yeah.
wrong. It's like a
Got
cartoon
that Washington
cowboy,
drawl.
yeah, which surprisingly is a thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But
Yeah. Yeah, I love the song. Okay. Let's move on to the next song. Get through this.
yeah,
Get through this.
convenient
album.
parking, which this is probably one of my favorites out of the album in terms of
Yeah.
instrumentally, because it's like I can hear it as like a modern heavy song, but it's like almost 30 years old. Like it still
Yeah.
feels fresh and modern.
Yeah. It's crazy because you think about this album and you're like, it's great, but it's probably going to sound dated. And a lot of it is like, maybe it kind of sounds dated just in the fact that it was recorded like not perfectly, but like the songwriting, like the structure of the songs, it doesn't really age all that much, especially
No.
this song.
No, yeah,
it
when it
just
gets to the
feels
chorus
like a
and he's
song.
like, convenient parking is way back, I'm like, that hit
That would go
really hard.
Yeah, that'd go hard at Elko. Yeah. Yeah. Man, I would love to see this album live.
Yeah, it's funny because like in the area that we live in, like a west side Olympia, like you can drive around and there are like these like houses that were just around at the time, and you can be like, they were probably playing a house show at like
Yeah.
this like this person's basement, because
Yeah.
every venue in Olympia at that time was just like somebody's basement.
Yeah,
that they would let
it
you
was
play
somebody's
it.
garage because they recently got a divorce, so they got to take all their wife stuffs out, and they're like, "Well, I don't need an extra space for my garage, so if you want to play a show here, I
Yeah.
can finally buy all the stuff I want." Like that's the vibe.
And it's like when you see again, it's so hard for people who don't live here, but like you can see where they're playing when you're listening to the show. Like I've been
Exactly.
to shows that are like they were long after this era, but like they were that like kind of basement show where everybody
Yeah.
is just everybody's on the same level.
Yeah.
It's the drum kit, the amps,
Yeah.
the PA. It's just blasting in a small tiny room. Way too
Everything's
loud.
peaking always.
Yes.
Yeah, and I feel like because you'll go to a local show and there's all the people who want to seem cool and they just sit in the back and they cross arms and they like go like that when it's a like the nastiest breakdown you've ever heard, and they're just like and then there's that one kid that's 18 years old doesn't know any of the bands. He just shows up here every time there's a show, and he moshes in the middle of the quiet song. It's
Yeah,
like this music sounds like it was written by those people.
exactly.
Yeah, which is such a vibe because it's not it doesn't this album doesn't feel self-conscious about how weird it is.
No.
Which I feel like they either tried a lot of albums will either try to make a point about like, ooh, I'm so quirky, or like, well, I could be really weird, but I'm just gonna pull back and do kind of a standard like song structure to make up for it or something. And it's just
Yeah.
like, I don't care what you think. I'm just gonna play it like this. And the speakers aren't good enough for you to hear all the different parts, so I'm just gonna, it doesn't really matter.
It's very unapologetic because
Yeah.
it could go into the I'm gonna wink at the audience, be like, "Oh, look at how quirky I am," or it could go the other way of just like, "I'm such a tortured artist, nobody knows who I am." But it's not that at all. It feels very sincere.
Yeah, for sure. Which like, because this album isn't like it's not like a Radiohead album of being like, oh, it's like meditations on the state of existence and everything. That those kind of albums are bad. But it's just like, this is my life. This is how I feel about it, and I'm just like, this is like, that's it. That's it. That's the album. Thanks for coming. Which I feel like that is like that like honesty comes through so well.
Yeah.
Like that, I feel like in albums so often, a lot of the albums like you've shown me that I didn't like is like, I don't feel like they're being honest. And you're like, what does that mean about the music? That doesn't make any sense. And I was like, I don't know. And I could be wrong. I could be right. It doesn't, I don't know the people. We could be wrong. And he's like, yeah, I faked it all, like on his deathbed or whatever. Like, we don't know. But like I just feel like that honesty comes across in the music.
Yeah. And there's also like just the way that they're recording this record, it feels very unfiltered and unhinged. Like there's I was driving our friend Aiden, we went to a concert last week, and I was listening to this album while we were driving up there, and Convenient Parking came up, and there is a point in the chorus where there's just another track of him just in the background, and I thought somebody was trying to
like
wave us down
behind your car.
Yeah, I thought we were in Seattle. I was like seeing somebody like coming up to me like,
that's
hi,
the
on
next
Fentanyl.
Isaac Brock. That's the next one. That's the next Modest Mouse right there.
You run
Put
up
a guitar in that man's hands. Give that man a microphone. Oh gosh.
But like even just the way that they're recording stuff, that it's like super unhinged. There's like 2 guitar layers at most.
Yeah.
The drums feel like there's like one room mic.
Yeah, that's what it feels like for sure.
That's it.
I love, because they don't do this exactly, but like in the style of like the old Arctic Monkeys albums, where it's just like there's the left guitar and the right guitar, and they're just playing completely different things. They don't do literally that, but it very much feels like that, of like, okay, I want to play these parts for this, and you want to play these parts for this. You just came up with this part, and they just like do that. Like, it feels like, oh yeah, this makes sense for the song, and they just went for it, and they weren't like, well, if I'm, taking up this harmonic space, then I really feel like, this is just like, no, I feel like I want to chug here, I feel like I want to go bow, wow, wow at this part, and so they just do it,
Yeah.
It feels very like, everybody was just like, oh yeah, this is what makes sense for the song.
Also,
it feels like
in case
no
anybody
thought
was wondering, all those weird like bendy like whammy bar stuff that he does, Isaac Brock got his own like whammy system developed, and so like all of those are practice parts.
Yeah.
They sound random, but like you can see like he has like this weird metal plate on the end of his guitars that he'll like push with his hand, or he'll like mess with it while he's playing, and it's
like, I
don't
want
know.
to go bow, not bow on this part, so I'm gonna
and you're just like, there's somebody who's like that specific of the kind of wow they want.
Yeah.
But there is.
I feel like you've seen enough me writing that's me.
Yes.
I can identify with that.
Dude,
like,
the entire time I was listening to this record, I'm like, okay, this is like Isaiah's brain.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like, it's not just like, oh, ADHD, I'm so crazy, I do blah blah blah. It's just like, exactly, I think this sounds cool, so I'm gonna do it. And that's all the thought you need to be put into it. Like, I feel like this works for this, so I'm going to do it. And that feels like that's all the thought that was, and that's all it needed to be. It didn't need to be like, well, does this timbre match with the emotional energy of this part of the song? Like, it's just like, this seems like it fits here. Like,
Yeah.
you just test it to, I feel like this. Does this part feel like this? Okay, cool. It goes in the song.
Yeah.
That's what
it's
every
like
part
if it scratches
feels
the
like.
part of the brain that likes
Yeah.
music, then you're like, okay, it passes.
It's like, does a record scratch like make sense for this kind of album? No. Does it vibe with the song that it's in? Yeah. And so like, there you go. It goes in the album.
Yeah.
That's it. That's end of discussion. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Then yeah, let's go to the next song, which is Lounge parentheses closing time, which is again another song where you're just like, I feel like they're trying to push people away who don't vibe with this kind of record, because this is almost like a depressing, sad lyrical song, but it's like performed in this like upbeat like skiffle like
it's almost like funky.
Yeah, it's like there's like some a little bit of like a disco vibe to some of their stuff,
which is for sure like
purely in composition.
Grandfather of like the grunge is very much disco. You hear like Dave Grohl talk about it, that's like a through line of like the inspiration that makes total sense.
I remember Isaac Brock saying with this record they specifically wanted to make sure that like even if they were doing something really heavy lyrically, or like it was like a heavy musical thing, that you could always still dance to it.
Yeah.
Which sounds like a really funny thing, because this is a really, lyrically, this is like a really messed up song to be like, oh, okay, but you can dance to it if you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like that is such a, like, good thought to have about this kind of music, where it's like, it just, like, it needs to, because I don't like to use the word vibe, because everybody uses that now, but it's like, the song needs to be fun to listen to. Like, sure, you can do this weird stuff, but still is it fun to listen to? Like, I think, and, you know, different artists will be like, I'm going to make this, like, Sigur Rós has, like, a 24 album ambient, like, ambient album that's just, like, random noises, that it's like, yeah, I respect that. I've listened to it. I listened to all 24 hours. But it's like, in my brain, I prefer, like, yes, this is weird, but it's like, I still want this to be music that's good to listen to.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to assault your ears on purpose.
Yeah, there's a level of, I know people are here to enjoy themselves. And that I think that's a line that, just separate from this album, that, like, songwriters need to constantly balance, of, like, something that is purely just emotional expression for me.
Yeah.
But then also being like, okay, well, if I
that's
just
cool, that's
make
valid,
it cathartic
but
for me, no one wants to listen.
People might not want to listen to it. Yeah. Which I feel like in my brain, this is a whole larger discussion. I feel like it, like, music as art, it doesn't have to be enjoyable for you to appreciate it as art, but for it to, like, stick in your rotation and for you to want to listen to it, it does have to be enjoyable.
Yes.
Like, it's just like, it's not like this, it's not this is like better than, you know, a super experimental, weird ambient thing that is like exact to your heart and you match the rhythms to the exact heartbeat of whatever. Like, that's just as valid, but I'm going to listen to this one more.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, doesn't make it more or less valid or like better or worse. It's just like, this is more fun to listen to. I'm going to like it more because I listened to it more, you know?
Yeah. But then
I feel like they toe that line really well.
Yeah, they toe that line really well. And then, but I think part of me is also wondering, at this era, if he was like, okay, well, nobody's going to know what I'm singing about. So maybe I can just write whatever lyrics I want in this like punk band setting. And then if they care enough about me to buy the record, then they can see what I'm actually singing. But yeah, there's this like, it dance indie vibe to Lounge, and then again it has this thing where they have like a high section, a low section, slow downs, like it's in an era where it feels like every band feels like they need to have an Ableton rig. This is really refreshing to be like, okay, we're just deciding when we get to this chorus the whole band's gonna die down, and it's not gonna be like a smooth like
which it doesn't
BPM
sound like any of
ramp
this is to a
down.
click.
No, none of it. It feels
For sure
very
not.
like get in a room, the microphones are turned on.
Yeah,
And
just record the drums and I'll record the guitar at the same time to basically get the tempo, and then everybody records after that. It almost feels like, I don't think this is true, but it just feels like you happen to record a garage show, and this is just how they did it.
yes, which I think if that was the intention behind how they recorded it, I think that was the best decision.
Because could you imagine listening to this if like a producer dude who's like, I love modern metal music where, like tone is all in the computer, and like everything, you don't need that amp, you can just emulate it, and you can emulate this and just do that, whatever.
Well, now you're getting personal.
But I'm saying, like, could you imagine that, like, this album getting recorded like that, where it's like,
if they re-recorded it and tried to reissue it again, I would not listen to it because part of why I think also just like it being that kind of like low fidelity, like the drums are just room mics. Yeah. There's not a whole lot of low end in the whole record at all. It doesn't feel like there's anything below like 100 in any of it. That makes it easy to listen to. That makes it like you can have these really intense songs that don't feel like ear fatiguing.
Yeah, because they don't have like, they don't do screeching highs, and they don't do like bass drops or anything. They didn't EQ the kick even. I think it literally just sounds like one room mic. Like they didn't try to artificially make it like hit more. They just like they put a mic in front of the thing that they normally do.
Yeah. And then also just a quick thing on this song. I love when it goes to the like this weird metered line at 2 minutes where it's like, I've got a girlfriend out of the city. It's like, and you're just like, at some point you had to come up with that line, and it's a cool line, but you had to be like, all right, let's stop this like fun indie shuffle so that we can like die down to this off-metered thing. And then go into like this weird sleepy instrumental, and then he comes back to the my brain's the burger and my heart's the charcoal, and you're just it's like this. Honestly, for anybody who's like listening to us right now, listen to those first 4 songs. If you hate it, you're not gonna enjoy the rest of the album, and you should probably quit.
The lyrics, they're so funny to read without listening to the song.
Yeah,
it's just like,
because it feels right when he's singing it, but then when I say it, it's wrong.
Because it doesn't make sense if I say she was going with a cinematographer. Everybody knew that he was really a pornographer, but it does make sense. And he's like, everyone is going to see a cinematographer, I mean a pornographer. Like, he says the words, like he mispronounces them, which is just like, I don't know if it's intentional or not, or if that's just how he says those words, but it's like, it doesn't make sense unless he mispronounces them like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then let's see. Any other thoughts on that one? Or next song?
No.
Okay. Next song, Jesus Christ Was an Only Child, which is just a straight up like it's a Western country song, and it's I have several notes or segments of my notes where it's things I want to talk about, and I have a lyrics section for every song. In the lyrics section for this song, I just wrote just all of them. Just all the lyrics. It's just like, I don't, like, I'll list my favorite one, but it's like, Penny found out her hair was styled when you should hide your kids while the dogs run wild. And it's, it's just this, like, it's like an unhinged, like, what a sad Pacific Northwest teenager in the 90s thinks like a Western song.
Yeah, I think in my brain it's connected now, where this is like, for the time, this was like modern folk music, where folk music and country, like folk is like a derivative of Western the same way country is a derivative of Western, and folk feels more, it just feels more, to me it just feels more genuine, and it's usually a lot weirder and a lot less clean than country music, and this is literally just a folk song. And so I feel like this is a great like tone setter for the album, of like, this is like the baseline of what they're going for, and the rest of the album is like evolution on like this kind of vibe, like with the like the fiddle, everything in there. And I love in this song where you can hear him just throughout the whole thing.
It's just Yeah,
I
the
love
track list in this session is the main vocal, some gang vocals, an acoustic guitar, a violin, and then somebody just doing like a weird baby.
Yeah, it's like they're just singing only the vowels of all of it. It's like they put his like vocals through an amp or something. Like it's just like, but this I feel like the song doesn't mesh as well with the whole album unless you
No.
have something like that in here. It
Yeah,
doesn't make
yeah,
sense without
and
it.
it's also a thing where with this song, this is such like a crazy aesthetic departure from
Yeah,
what's come before, to the point where, like, if it didn't have, not this song per se, but if it didn't have any of this kind of aesthetic in it, I
Yeah.
don't know if it would have, like, I don't know if this would be as many people's like favorite record.
yeah,
Because like this, it's one thing to be like, okay, we're in a Seattle, like, garage band basically, and that's the vibe that we have.
there's plenty of those.
There's plenty of those, but then they're just like, we're gonna write a song about how Jesus Christ was an only child, and he went down to the river and drank and smiled. And it's like, and then there's but
His
also
dad was
the line,
also mad.
his dad was so mad he should have killed that thing before he had. Meanwhile, there's an obnoxious like baby laughing
Yeah.
in the
It sounds like
background.
a kid's toy that they just like repeated back and forth and put through an amp. It's like it does, like you have to listen to it to understand what we're talking about. It's just the whole song.
But
so
yeah, it's like it transports you to like a completely different world from like Heart Cook's brain.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like if you live in Washington, you
get
have
it.
been
You get it.
you have
Yep.
been in like a 10 square mile radius where you feel both of those things. You
Yep.
have been to
you've been
like
at shows where both of those artists played.
yes.
Like I've been the opening artist that was the folk one, and I've been the opening art and the closing artist that was like a hardcore like metal grunge thing, and it's like they're just at the same bill, and that's just what it's like all the time.
Yeah. It's it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Then the next song is "Doing the Cockroach," which to me is funny how much it feels like a modern song
Yeah.
in terms of like that like main riff. Like I feel like
Yeah.
that's something I would hear on, and this is I think another thing that I love about this record is that we're talking about these elements. Like there's the punk stuff, there's the western country stuff, there's also this like weird like melancholy like indie vibe that is
It's
like this
almost getting into being influenced by emo even.
Yeah,
It's like
it's
toes the line
pre-emo.
really well. Yeah.
which is insane to think about. But yeah, there are some riffs on here where I'm just like, this feels like an emo record.
Sorry, primo. You said pre-emo, primo.
Yeah, I was
Add
gonna
one
make
to my
that joke,
point.
but
Add
I
one
have self-control, so I
don't.
didn't say it.
Well, that point counts for me. So, anyways, the song.
But yeah, even just the way that it like bursts out at the end of every measure, it's like chill, 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 chill. Please shut up, and it's just like it's so. And then they speed up to just him saying, "Doing the cockroach, yeah. Doing the cockroach, yeah. Doing the cockroach, yeah, yeah."
Yeah.
And he's just like, I think I saw an interview with him, and he's just like, yeah, I thought like, there would be like I just imagined there would be like a fun dance called the cockroach.
Yeah, it's like the modern day of like chaperone be like HOTT, like that's like, oh, I'm gonna make this new dance, and it's just like,
I think he had a lot less aspirations than not to go. I don't think he was hoping that people would come up with a dance called the cockroach.
Yeah, I don't think he stopped in the middle of his set to be like, okay, guys, I'm gonna show you how to do the cockroach before we do the song.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm really over artists doing that. It's like, hey, you've paid money to come see me. I'm supposed to be doing stuff for you. I want you to join in with me for this thing to make me feel better.
Yeah.
Sorry, grievance aired.
Yeah. There's for sure better ways to do it than I think everybody does it, where they literally just stop and like, I'm going to teach you the bridge of this song. You are going to sing the bridge of the song when I say these words. Like there's sleeper agent everybody.
Yeah.
Anyways, they don't do that.
I don't
'cause
like
it's not a live show.
communists.
These communists and their hot
These
to go
communist
dances.
artists asking me to hand over my free night dance.
Stupid. You expect me to sing? Why, you should be paying me.
But
Anyways.
but yeah, then the song kind of speeds up a little bit.
It's just, yeah, it feels like it keeps speeding because I feel like it does speed up, but it's like at a point it gets to a speed where it just feels like it's speeding up because of the way that they're just on the guitars. It just constantly feels like it's speeding up, even when it's
Yeah.
not.
And then there's like a weird, again, like it when it speeds up, it kind of goes to a dancier vibe. The bass is doing this like upbeat, like
Yeah. Yeah, it's disco, straight up.
Yeah.
It's just disco. It's just straight up disco.
And then lyrically he's doing 1 year, 20 years, 40 years, 50 years.
Yep.
And it's like you're just like, what is this record? I want to go back and ask my sister, like, what were you thinking when you heard this record for the 1st time? Because to me, it sounds like unhinged.
I feel like probably people weren't thinking and they were just listening and they were just like, "It's a vibe. That's it.
Yeah.
Done. Sick. Fun to listen to.
Yeah.
That's all it's got to be." Sick. Any more notes on that specific song?
No, just a lot of whammy bars and pinch harmonics where the just they love doing that.
All right. Next song, Cowboy Dan.
This is probably one of the darker songs on the album.
Yeah. It's the most because it's not necessarily as right out the gate crazy as a lot of the other songs are. It's like you can hear a lot what he's saying a lot more and the vibe of the song, whereas before it felt like there was a on purpose, the lyrics are here and the music is over here. Now it's like super specific. All of it sounds like drab and dark the whole time, you know?
It sounds like a cowboy who's like dying in the desert. And you know, there's a couple, the two lyrics that I enjoy. One is because Cowboy Dan's a major player in the cowboy scene. He goes to the reservation, drinks, and gets mean. He goes to the desert, fires his rifle in the sky, and says, "God, if I have to die, you will have to die."
Yeah.
It's just like, that is such a, and it's like in such a heavy like chord progression where you feel the weight of it, like a dude who thinks he's gonna die way.
Yeah.
But then
for sure
also
feels like a funeral walk of a song.
no, literally, it feels like a cowboy funeral song. Or like when you see a movie and there's like a villain and they're like, you're like, oh, they're gonna get their comeuppance like right in a couple of minutes. Like that's what it feels like. But then there's also the line that I love is, every time you think you're walking, you're just moving the ground. Every time you think you're talking, you're just moving your mouth. Every time you think you're looking, you're just looking down.
Yeah.
And it's like that lyric happens. There's like a brief reprieve where everything gets really happy. And then it just dives back down into this like almost, I don't know how to describe it other than this like stompy chain gang style, just like oppressive, evil sounding part. So it takes like a break from that for a bit.
For a really long time. For like the whole middle of the song.
Yeah, for the whole middle of the song, and it sounds like this like really happy like reprieve from it, and then the riff just slowly becomes minor and it starts speeding up, and then it slams back into this sort of like heavy oppressive thing, but it feels like the world is ending. It's so good.
It sounds like the moment you realize that you're going to die and you're not getting out of this. Like it just sounds like that, and it's might be my favorite song on the record. Maybe?
I would respect that. It's like the most, if you're talking about like creativity, it's like one of the craziest ones.
It feels like it's the most meshed. Whereas the other ones, I feel like you could maybe make it as a detraction from the other songs where the musicality, even though it like vibes with it, a lot of the lyrics like emotionally feel kind of separate with the dynamics of it, which like can help or hinder the songs depending just on your perspective of it. But I feel like this, everything's locked in. Where lyrics and musicality is just one, you know?
Yeah, it's It's so crazy. Also, that that guitar part that they play at
Hmm.
I'm trying to think, is it? Yeah, it's like 213. It's like it almost when I listen to it, I'm like that almost sounds like a riff that would be on like a TikTok right now.
Yeah.
Like I could hear
Yeah.
a TikTok of like this,
Sigma grind set.
not that, but just like, oh, here's my vacation in Cancun, like
Yeah.
that. In the what I mean is like, it doesn't sound like a 30-year-old song. It
Hmm.
feels like a band could come out with that
Is
today, and
this
it would
really
still
30
work.
years old?
It came out in 1997, so it will be 30 years
28
old
years
in
old.
2 years.
That's crazy.
That's another thing is like this doesn't
Doesn't seem like
sound
that.
that old.
Yeah.
Like how
It
many
really doesn't.
albums from this era sound like old?
Yeah. Super outdated. I think because they're not going for a vibe that they're trying to match. They're just doing like I like my guitar when it sounds like this, so I'm going to do that. It's not like, oh, this is really popular now, so I'm going to follow that scene. It's just, which I feel like I really admire about like early grunge from Washington, is that it wasn't like, oh, there's a scene, let's start following that scene, making that scene. It's just, which I'm not going to say like, oh, everybody just came up with grunge in their own basements. That's not what happened.
No.
Like obviously people saw the forerunners, and were like inspired by that, but it wasn't like a I want to recreate this in my own little spin. It's just like, okay, I have these influences and this is what it's made me, and so I'm just going to do that.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like grunge felt so honest, even when it wasn't super like good at describing what it actually was feeling. It was just, you could tell that, like, I mean, they're for sure feeling whatever the heck they're talking about. I have no idea what it is. Half of them you can't really understand what they're saying. Um, but like, it's just, yeah, I feel like I'm just going back to, I really appreciate honesty in music, and I feel like this album and this kind of time in Washington's music had a lot of that.
Yeah, it's
Back in the good
it's
old days before I was born.
in the good old days before we were, yeah, whatever. I'm not going to say
Were
that.
you born? What year were you born?
I was born by the time this album came out,
I
like a
was
few
not.
months earlier. But
I came out 5 years later.
you were like, I've heard this album is great.
Came out of the womb listening. Yeah, my
You
parents
just-
put the
you-
little headphones.
you're just being bored and you just come out, Jesus Christ, was it only?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I sounded like that too.
Uh,
I actually did used to, when I was a kid, I didn't sound like Isaac Brock. I had a similar vibe because my parents were from Washington and we lived in Texas. And so it was like a little bit of Southern with also like the Washington accent, which is so
Yeah.
weird being from Washington. Like the Washington accent is like almost the absence of an accent, but not quite.
yeah.
But it's like I understand the exact, like when he's speaking and yelling, the way how his words just like fumble all over themselves.
Yes.
Like I get that. That's a perfect like Washington and the South like combined. Which I don't know like where he's from or where, like if he just has a list, but that's all the only reason why he sounds like that or what. But like it just, I feel like I have a personal connection to it because it matches those perfectly.
Yeah. Agreed. And then let's go to Trailer Trash, which is again like one of those like this song is so depressing topic wise, but has one of like the happiest instrumentals.
Yeah.
It's just like it almost feels like a Beatles song that's like overly positive, and it's like the lyrics are like eating snowflakes with plastic forks
Yeah.
and a dinner plate of chorus. You think of everything. Short love with a long divorce and a couple of kids, of course. They don't mean anything.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like this is another thing. I don't want to have this album, the only lens we talk about it, be through stuff now bad, stuff old good.
No.
But like I feel like a lot of times you get the, oh, this sounds happy, but really if you dig deep down, it's like depressing. and that's because you wanted it to sound like that, versus this is just like, this is the aesthetic of the trailer life of just like, yeah, we're chilling, and everything sucks, but we're chilling, like,
Yeah.
like it matches that aesthetic perfectly. It's not trying to create something or do something.
Yeah. I would also another thing that I love about this record is it feels very like foundational for a lot of stuff that eventually came out. So cuz like this record came out 2 years before the first American football record. And
Yeah,
that this song
yeah,
feels very like what
for sure, a
eventually what
precursor to like math rock, post punk,
yeah, or
post
like the
rock type
that
stuff.
Midwest emo sound that like I mean now that's another genre that I feel like has just
Yeah,
been adopted by social media to where it's like you say
yeah.
Midwest emo
You mean math
and
rock?
you're just like
Yeah, or just you mean
"Blurly,
anything?
blurloo,
Yeah,
blurly,
yeah,
blurloo." Hi, I'm on Instagram. Here's my guitar. Blurly,
yeah,
blurloo. No offense to
yeah,
anybody who does that, but
yeah,
some of us, some of us also like American football.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I totally see. I don't know the direct influence, but I definitely see that, like this being a precursor to a lot of the Midwest emo vibe, which is kind of inspired by the like post rock vibe. Um, that this is very much in that kind of post rock of like, I'm tired of just like catchy melodies and just pop songs that happen to have distorted guitars on them, and so
Hmm.
I'm really just gonna like what the new distorted guitars is not having like a catchy line. Like that's the new
Yeah,
distortion. It's just like, I'm not gonna write like a thing, I'm not gonna write the Enter Sandman riff that you just like, that's a iconic riff that you remember. That I'm not gonna do that. Like it's not about that. It's about the whole song, like just being this like feeling.
yeah. And then I would also say with this song, it I know that there was a season where David Brock did live in a trailer park, like he was growing up in a trailer park,
Hmm.
and I mean they're everywhere in like the area we live in,
Yeah.
and I'm just like I know people where like this is
Yep.
the
I
life
know a
that
whole
they
bunch of people.
live.
Yeah. Which
It's
this
not
song
like an
sounds like
outsider.
trailer park living.
No, it does. It's like this is
Yeah.
the opposite of like if you take like Trailer Park Boys as being the extreme of
Yeah.
just like oh here's the funny like oh ha 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 they're in a trailer
Yeah.
park. This is like
This is
what
the for
people
real.
feel
Yeah.
when they live in a trailer park.
Because it's like there's because it's obviously like people in poverty, like it's gonna suck, you're gonna feel that, but there's just knowing so many people in trailer park, especially kids. When I was growing up, it was like, because that's just what it is, like just the my surroundings aren't great, but I'm still a kid, so I'm just gonna like find the good, find the fun in whatever this is. And this song feels like that to me. It reminds me of like kids I knew in middle school, where it's like, oh, I'm super excited that like, oh, I get to go camping outside because my uncle's staying over, so he's taking my room, so I sleep in a tent outside, so I'm basically going camping.
Yeah.
Like the reality of that situation versus like how like a kid feels about it, that's what it feels like. The lyrics and the music of this song, they feel like they're doing a similar thing to me, where it's like, if this was an instrumental song, it's not like a, oh my gosh, so happy, everything's major song, but it definitely has that vibe to me, I feel like.
Yeah. And it's interesting to yeah, it has like this weird like triumphant ending
Yeah.
when it feels
It
like it
feels
shouldn't.
proud. It feels proud that like to be like a trailer park person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which you should be.
Yeah. If you're listening to this song in a trailer park, be proud of your trailer park.
Yeah. All right. Anything else to say about this song?
No.
Okay. Out of gas.
I'm gonna be honest. This is the one that is kind of like a hit or miss for me.
Yeah.
I would solely because I feel like it's kind of similar to Heart Cooks Brain or Brain Cooks Heart.
Yeah.
Or no, Heart Cooks Brain. It feels like it's hitting kind of the same beat that already hit, which isn't that big of a problem for me. I mean, this is like kind of a shorter song, but it's like, I feel like we've already everything else. This is how I describe it. Everything else up to this point feels like every song has been like a different town.
Yep.
or like
Yep, for sure.
a different sect of Washington.
Yeah. The
Almost.
song feels like you drove through one of them again to get to another one, and you just
Yeah.
stopped there at the gas station. At the
Yeah.
gas station.
It is the smallest critique, but it does feel like, all right,
Yeah.
well, we've kind of been here
I
already.
I like it in the album context. I would never pick the song. I probably would never pick the song out and just be like, oh, I want to listen to Old Modest Mouse. Let me just pick this song. I would never do it with the song, I don't think.
Yeah, my only good thing I have to say about this song is the lyric. And I had a drink the other day. Opinions were like kittens. I was giving them away.
Yeah, such a good. I haven't lived everywhere, so I don't know how common it is for people to just give out animals in the Safeway parking lot.
Our cat got pregnant. We don't want to keep him.
Yeah,
here's a box.
That's
of
just
kittens.
everywhere. It's
Yes.
everywhere in every city. It's all the time. It's so funny because I know that that's not a Washington thing that only happens in Washington, but the fact that it sounds like this and he's saying that, it just feels like home, you know? Even though it happens other places, it just feels like Washington.
Yeah. That's all I had to say on that song.
Yeah. I feel like it makes sense in the album context, tonally when you're listening through the whole thing. But yeah, I wouldn't pick it out and say anything particularly special about it.
Nice. And then
could you tell me what you're competing in the Olympics? In the next Olympics, Seth, could you tell me what event you're doing?
I feel like you're giving me a setup for a joke, but I don't know what you're referring to.
Just next, right below.
Oh, that's your cue for.
You.
Okay. Long distance drunk.
Yes, your Olympics.
Okay, that was your attempt at a joke. I was just like,
I feel like
I'm lost. Honestly, I think this is again another song where it's so weird. It's almost like this Enya like ambient like I would say that when you're going through this album for the first time, you're like, why is this song here?
Mm-hmm.
Like it has like this weird like almost like honky tonk vibe, but then there's like this ethereal female vocal in the background, but then it kind of acts as a palate cleanser for everything that you've had up to that point, because it is like a 3-minute 40-second song, and it kind of refreshes your palate a little bit into what I think is the best genre flip or moment of the album. It's like my favorite part of the album every time, which I'll just combine this one with the next song. We haven't discussed if we're swearing on this record, but it's like S-word luck. But
such a good transition. So, I love
to paint the picture for everybody. There's like 3 to 4 minutes of this like soft, happy blum 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 like guitar. There's like weird, majory, ethereal vocals for like 3 minutes 40 seconds. There's not a whole lot of lyrics in it either, and then it dies down, and then it hard cuts to the next song of him shouting full volume, "This plane is definitely crashing," and then bow, 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 like the full band just rocks it, and it makes me laugh.
It's the most like
every single time
metally riff to the you know.
Yeah, it feels very like Motorhead almost, like old, like bluesy or like Yardbirds, like very early like British Invasion sort of rock stuff. But it's the whole song, it's 2 minutes and 20 seconds, but it's him shouting, "The plane is definitely crashing."
Best
like,
lyrics of the
followed
album.
by best. And then like 40 seconds of just a band riffing on this like rock riff. And then it hard cuts and he says, "This boat is obviously sinking." And then they go back into it. And then they do it for another 40 seconds, and then he's like, "This building's totally burning down." And then they go back into it. And then at the very end he goes, and my heart has slowly dried up. And it's so good. It's so good. This is probably my favorite moment from the album, is this two-song
as an album
combination.
experience, for sure.
This
It's
is
so
one
fun. It's
when
so
people
fun.
talk about like a single will never deliver things that like an album
Yep.
can do. This is
Yep.
what they're
This
talking
is that.
about. You can't
You
have
could
this
you could never
experience.
release this as a single and be
No.
like, oh, it totally gets it. You couldn't release those two songs and be like, this is it. You have to listen to the whole thing. It doesn't make sense in any other context.
Yeah. So those are my thoughts for those two songs.
Yeah. It's not like a whole bunch to say about it, but it's such a
No.
good moment in the album.
It's like that is I will just say right now that is my favorite moment of the record.
Yeah.
Because it makes me
Yeah.
laugh and smile every time.
Yeah. I feel like it's up there for me. And then next song, after these two short, kind of one note songs, into this song.
Into Trucker's Atlas, which is a 10-minute song, which, you know, it's kind of bittersweet for me because one of my favorite parts of this song is the drum intro, and, you know, a sad part of the Modest Mouse lore is Jeremiah Green, the drummer, the original drummer. He passed away in 2022 to, I believe it was cancer. But yeah, when you're listening to this, you're just like,
He really shines in this song.
yeah,
The
there's
drums
like,
are good throughout the whole album, but they definitely keep their place in like supporting everything else. I feel like in this song particularly, they like he kind of like peeks out from the background a lot
Yeah.
of this song.
yeah, there's a lot of variation, and like, it's also like one of the more like punkier songs in terms of like vocal delivery, and it's like it's also playing a part of like this like character piece that like there's a lot of like songs on this record that are like it's about this character of like a guy who has a trucker's atlas, which is like kind of a thing. Like you need to like, if you're, I mean, similar to what we've been saying about like trailer parks or things like. I'm noticing we like this album a lot, and they say this is a white trash album.
Yeah.
And every song we're just like, oh yeah, I know people like
I
that.
love that white trash thing. Yeah. I there, because a lot of like movies, the like white trash person is like this racist old man that
Yeah.
hates everybody and doesn't like newcomers to this town, doesn't like that people are doing like these new thing, and those people exist.
Yes.
But so many of the people that you meet in Washington that like live in a trailer park, they're so fun and so kind,
Yeah.
and so just like genuine, like, and they'll be like, yeah, I have anger issues, you know, sometimes I, you know, scream at people when they get my order wrong, but I'll go back there the next day and I'll apologize. Like,
Yeah.
they're just so honest with who they are. I did a little bit of construction work, and I worked with, I wouldn't call them white trash, but like people that like, if you're from Chicago or like LA or whatever, and you met these people, you'd be like, oh, I already know everything I need to know about these people. And like, you wouldn't give them the time of the day. Like, they're such genuine people. I'm talking about it like it's like a different species of people. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, I love these people. I love trailer park people. I love trucker people. I love like Washington poor people.
Yeah.
It's like I grew up around a whole bunch of them.
That will be the quote. That will be the
I love
title of this
Washington poor
episode.
people.
I love Washington poor people.
I do.
But yeah, no, I mean that's again a thing where it's like this is a record that hits home for both of us. Like I've yet to be at a church, the church that we're at right now. It's the first church I've ever been to where there wasn't a trucker.
Yeah.
That and it's like
I don't think there is.
I don't think
That's
we have
crazy.
one, but yeah, like it's just such a commonplace job, and like I know people with it's like this song is kind of not all of the song, but it's like describing their life, and it gets into like drug use and like just the repetitive like the heavy side. It's like
You have to have some stimulant to when you're going that long. I helped this is not the same thing, but I helped my like great grandma move stuff, and I drove there with my grandpa in like a U-Haul truck, and it's like in South Dakota, and he's like, yeah, we'll get there in 2 days. And we drove like 12-14 hour days or something like that, and just like the idea of that being your job, doing that every day, of just having these long drives. And I mean, that's what I mean, the first album, This Is a Long Drive for Somebody Nothing to Think About, is a similar vibe to that whole album. But like the like how much is just in here the whole time and you have no outlet. Like, yeah, it's just I don't know what to say. It fits that vibe.
Exactly. And then you also get like the great lines like, I do lines and crossed roads. I crossed the lines of all the great state roads.
That's a bar. That's straight up a bar.
Also, the buzz from the bird on my dash road locomotion phone.
Yeah. So good. I love this. I feel like this song maybe has the best lyrics to just read out rather than like, I feel like you get it from reading it and it doesn't like make zero sense. This and Cowboy Dan, I feel like you can just read the lyrics and you get a good part of it versus a lot of them it's like, what the heck is he talking about, and doesn't make any sense until you listen.
Yeah.
These are very, I think maybe they're because they're not that, none of these lyrics here are super like crazy, oh my gosh, who could have thought of a way to say it like that.
No.
But they're just so specific and not specific on purpose to make a point, just specific because that's just what it is.
Yeah.
It's like, these are some of my favorite lyrics in the whole album.
When you just associate one word with like the buzz from a bird on my dash, like just like the pure like word association combination, it immediately paints like this really vivid picture of like this trucker who's just like, okay, I'm just doing drugs and there's like a bird on my dash. I don't care.
Yeah. I also love that a big portion of the song is just the same thing, which like fits the perfect vibe of a trucker of like, you're just doing the same thing.
He is not averse to just repeating verses over and over again.
Lost art. It's a lost art of just, you have this one part and you just keep going. People don't do that anymore. And it feels like, especially because it's just like, it's all a take. Like there's just that little bit of mess up and it's like, well, that's a 6-minute take. I don't want to redo that. Like, I'll just leave it in, you know, that there's enough of that to keep you invested versus like, oh yeah, it's, you know, these 4 chords. I got that, loop it for the whole time. That's not going to translate well, but you just do the whole take. And it's like, there's this little thing of you're playing the same thing the whole time, but you did 3 like down strums instead of 2 on this side. So you had to get back on it. Like that is plenty enough. And it's like, you start to notice those things the same way like a trucker is like, oh, that's, you know, different colored grass, huh?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, you start to notice those things, which it's just, there's so much synesthesia of what the song is about and like how they're playing it, the way the song's structured and everything.
Yeah. Awesome. And then going to the next song, we have 3 more to go.
Yeah.
We have Polar Opposites, which is another like really happy song.
Yeah.
That has just the craziest lyrics.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I know I keep reading them out, but they're so good.
Yeah.
2 one-eyed dogs looking at stereos. Hi-fi gods try so hard to make their cars low to the ground. These vibrations oil its teeth. Primer gray is the color when you're done dying.
Yeah. This is what Sleep Token wants to be. They want to have something this good where it's just like, this is exactly what he's saying is exactly what he's meaning, and he's not trying to make it weird. That's just exactly what he's saying, you know? And I feel like a lot of days, I make the Sleep Token joke because we did a thing
we did a Sleep Token album review, and it was for anybody who wants it. We can try to see if we can find it and upload it for anybody who wants it. The album came out like a few years ago,
but like you get the super like, oh, like the essence of your heads, you keep it, like that kind of vibe is like imitating stuff like this, you know?
Kind of, but there's also just like, the imagery is so deranged.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have another way of saying it other than like, you have to be a person who's gone through some stuff to be like 2 one-eyed dogs looking at stereos and being like, oh, I can make that connection.
Yeah. Yeah. But it no other lyric would fit there. Like, and there's so much of like like rhyme scheme doesn't matter, like syllable count doesn't matter. Like none of that was ever a consideration in this album, where it's just like, no, I'm going to say exactly what I want to say, and it doesn't make sense if he doesn't, you know?
Yeah.
It wouldn't make any sense if he tried not to.
We also have. I'm interested to see if we look at another Modest Mouse record in the future. If we looked at like one of the later records, if we would notice a difference or a departure from any of the stuff that we're talking about, because I do feel like this and their first record, it was like I have a lot to get off my plate, and I one of the characteristics I've noticed of like Modest Mouse records after this. Honestly, I love a lot of the ones that people are like, oh, this is newer Modest Mouse. I don't like it as much.
Yeah,
I still like them.
I think Modest Mouse has not had a bad album. I don't think they've had a bad album. They've had albums that are not nearly as good as some of their other albums, but I enjoy listening. I've listened through all their albums and enjoyed it every single time with every album.
Yeah. I think it's like when I visited Nashville, when you're going to find food in Nashville, it's like, it's not that there's bad places to eat and then there's good places to eat. It's every place is good. You're trying to find the great places to eat.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's how
like
I
Modest Mouse albums.
Modest Mouse, it's like Nashville food.
Yeah. And they have such a, this is more talking about the artist in the album, but like they've gone through, like, I feel like there's three big distinctions of this kind of era of like the post rock kind of indie super feel, and then they got more into the kind of indie pop kind of vibe where they are, and now they're in this whole new different spot with their last two albums. It feels like that is like it's like moving. It's not moving more into a pop direction, maybe production wise, but like it's just obvious the evolution, and it's I think you could be deceived into thinking, oh, it's just there's the less pop and then it just gets more pop as you go along, which that's not.
No
albums, like maybe
as we've gone through this record,
point.
there's so much like, oh, that feels like a disco beat, or this lyric is so catchy. Like those elements were there. It's just early on, they didn't have a way to like. Yeah. Probably they just didn't have a way to pay for it.
Yeah, and it just happened to be lightning in a bottle of recording it that way, matched so perfectly with what he's talking about, like the emotions he's feeling, the vibe, you know. I don't like using that word, but like it just happened to, which maybe, you know, how much of it is on purpose, how much of it is not, but it just matches perfectly the way it's recorded.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
the next song?
Yeah, Bankrupt on Selling, which I think has like the strongest imagery lyrically.
Yeah. I think I was wrong about it. I think this is the best lyrics.
Yeah, I think I'll just read out a couple of them. It's like, well, all the apostles, they're sitting in swings saying, I'd sell my savior for a set of new rings and some sandals with the style of straps that cling to the best to the era. Mm-hmm. That is such a, again, you have to listen to his delivery of it, because that's what really sells it. Or my actual favorite of the song is, well, I'll go to college and I'll learn some big words and I'll talk real loud, goddamn right, I'll be heard. You'll remember all the guys that said all those big words he must have learned in college.
Yeah.
Just like, this is what, again, it's kind of like this character of like a country bumpkin who's like, oh, I think I'll go to college and I'll talk smart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, it just feels so Washington. I know so many people that are like this.
Yes.
It's so perfect.
And then
so
sorry,
good.
Go ahead.
I love this song. I love this song so much. This is such a like melancholy, like, because so much of what's hard for me to listen to, a lot of punk and grunge, I like a lot of it, but what's hard for me to like really like start to connect with it mentally and emotionally is like so much of it is just like despair, like depressed, sad, everything sucks. And what I really appreciate about Modest Mouse is like there's stuff like that in there, but it's very much like everything sucks, but you know, that's life, so I'm gonna keep on going through it, you know,
Yeah.
not in like a ignoring your problems and like, yeah, I feel like this way, but you know, I'm gonna, you know, I still want to, you know, buy food.
Yeah.
And it's just that vibe I feel like is very much Washington. Nobody likes their jobs and everybody feels like there's a lot of stuff that sucks, but also like
You
they
got to keep
love
going.
so much, yeah. Which I really appreciate about people in Washington. Yeah. I love this song.
And then it has like probably that lead guitar stuff in the background of this is like my favorite. Like the ambient
Yeah.
spring reverb, just
Yeah.
it's so good.
The last line also it took a long time, but I came clean with myself. I came clean out of love with my lover. I still love her. Loved her more when she used to be sober and I was kinder. And then
Yeah.
it just ends. Crazy.
That it's such a I mean, I know we say it over and over again, but we know people like this.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. It's because I don't want to talk about people's lives, but it's like it fits perfect. It just matches exactly so many people that I know.
Yeah. And then last song of the record, 15 songs in. This is the last one. Styrofoam boots / It's all nice on ice. All right.
So good. I love song titles like this.
Yeah. This one has kind of the craziest imagery about like I don't even I almost don't want to describe all of the stuff like Crisco Disco and 100% Listerine because it's such like a traditional like folk song or like an old country song. It's like well I've been da 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 and it's like I think it's best just experienced if you like listen to it because then it turns into it's a really great end point to this album because then it builds up into like a full band vibe and just a crazy washout.
Yeah. I love the like the first line of well all's not well, but I'm told that it'll all be quite nice. You'll be drowned in boots like mafia, but your feet will still float like Christ's.
Yeah.
Crazy line. Great bar. Bars. So good. The lyrics are so good. And then the build up throughout it. I love the song being on the end. It makes perfect sense. Of it's like it's not coming to this grand conclusion about everything that he's thought about. It's not like, oh my gosh, I finally realized everything. It's not the end to all of these stories that I've compiled together. It's just like, yeah, this is how I feel. And that's the end of it, you know?
Yeah. And that's, again, Washington attitude. It's like, I don't have a solution to all these problems that I have right now, but I've got to get going.
Yeah. Because, I just love this album. The way that it's structured is so good. This is such a good last song. This is such a good, like I feel like people have in their mind of what a last song needs to be, of like this epic culmination of everything in this big final hurrah, which is not the song. This is not that. It's one of the, because there's songs where it's like it's full band going crazy and then kind of an acoustic, not really the full band. And this is, for the full band, the most mellow of all the songs, you know?
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say. You just have to listen to it.
You just have to listen to it. If you've gotten this point, if you've been listening to this podcast, you could have listened to the whole record at this point. So just go listen to the record.
Yeah.
But
so good.
this is, I really like this record a lot.
I love this album.
So closing thoughts, I hand to you.
Okay, I hate this album. The whole time I lied. No, I love this album. I love Modest Mouse. I love Washington music. It makes me so happy to live here and be a musician because there's so much stuff like this to be inspired and be like, oh yeah, that was 10 minutes from here or whatever. It invokes so much of people I know, places I've lived, like trailer parks I've been to, antique stores I've been to on the side of like a random highway that goes up into the Olympics. Like, it has all of that vibe that I'd be curious to have somebody to listen to this that's not from Washington, because I wonder how much of it translates. Whether all of that is just in the fact that, because I mean, this album, is popular. It's a classic in some circles. So obviously translates somewhat, but like the way I feel about this album, I don't know if you can get that to its fullness without being from Washington, living in Washington a while. Like it just the like listening to this, it feels, it breathes Washington. I don't
Yeah.
know what else to say. It's just it fits perfectly. I like walking through downtown Olympia. This is like the soundtrack of downtown Olympia. Walking through like the not downtown Tacoma, but the downtown Tacoma that isn't really part of Tacoma, but it's where everybody thinks is like the normal downtown. Like this is the music that is like blaring in everybody's brains like as they walk through.
Yeah.
And then like down 101, like all the tiny towns on the way to Aberdeen, like that kind of like white trash or whatever, like it encompasses so much of that it only could have been written by somebody from here. I feel like.
Yeah.
So do you want to, we should decide scores. Are we just going 1 through 10? Do we want to do something silly?
I think we can do 1 through 10. I think
1 through
that's
10?
I think that's the best way.
We should clarify now the way that we think about 1 through 10, because I think schools have ruined people's brains as through a 1 through 10 scale.
Yeah.
Of a 5 is neutral. So
Yes.
like if you think grades, 5 is like a C. Like
Yes.
5 is not an F. 5 is like, yeah, it's music, I listened to it. It's like what you'd think in like a shopping mall music that you don't mind. Like that's like, yeah, whatever. And then 6 is like, I liked it. It's good. 4 is like, I didn't like it. And then like, 10
Yeah.
is like, this album is perfect. I love this album. I can't think of anything wrong about this. Like that's the kind of scale that we're using of like 5 doesn't mean bad. 6 doesn't mean bad. 7 doesn't mean bad.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's also, I think, important to understand that when we say, because this is a thing that we talked about a lot on the Sleep Token. I almost want to release the Sleep Token episode,
at least that one.
just because it's an interesting conversation of like, I actually enjoyed a lot of Sleep Token's music. I still gave the album a really low score
because we realized I don't listen to any full parts of any of these songs.
or just like, okay, one good song on an album does not make it a good album.
Yeah, does not an album make it.
Having your favorite song ever on an album that has 9 songs you don't want to listen to, the album
a 1 out
now
of 10.
yeah, it's like a 1 out of 10. And it's like that, even just appraising it from that perspective of, yeah, when we're giving rates, we are reviewing the album. We're not reviewing your favorite song from this album. We're reviewing the album as a whole. We're the same way that we don't review a scene from a movie. We review the whole movie.
Yeah. I feel like for me, what do we want to go to? Do we want to go to 0.5, 0.75, 0.25? How granular do we want to get?
I think like 0.5 as like a
I feel
metric.
like any more than that is kind of splitting hairs.
Yeah, because at that point we might as well just do like 1 out of 100.
Yeah. Man. I'm trying not to be biased because I'm from Washington, but also I'm from Washington, so I'm going to be biased.
Yeah, I'll go first. For
go first.
me, this album is 9.5.
Yeah.
It's almost perfect. There's just a couple of things where like some of the songs have like 3 minutes of just repetitive instrumentals that kind of go on for a long time, a little bit longer than they should. And then the big one is
There's just a few songs that
out of gas specifically is like, okay, this feels like a repeat, which again, if we're talking about a long like album, album is like an hour long. When you have the sin of repeating a vibe in this record again in the exact same way, or not the exact same way, but in a similar way, that brings it down. Not a ton, but collectively over the whole album,
It feels
that
like it's
cuts
the
it like
only
half
song-
a point.
It's the only song that's just a little bit undercooked. It feels like just a little bit, you know. Which when you're eating a big bowl of spaghetti meatball, and there's just one noodle that fall out of the.
I don't think you
boil
know
and
how
it's-
spaghetti works.
And there's just
There's
you have
never
noodle
one
that just-
uncooked noodle.
Well, it just dropped out, and then you noticed it, and then you just popped it in. But then right after that, you put it in the colander. And so if you're just eating spaghetti, and then you just hear a crunch, and the spaghetti's the best you've ever had, but there was just that one crunch, it means it's not perfect. You know what I mean? So I think that's exactly what you're saying, and I think I communicated that perfectly.
I think no one else eats as much spaghetti as you do.
I eat, literally, I have leftover spaghetti over there. Oh, dang it. I put it in the sink.
Don't show your spaghetti.
Yeah, I ate spaghetti last night. I eat so much spaghetti. Okay. Anyways, I agree. 9.5 out of 10. I feel like it has. I was going between 9 out of 10 and 9.5 out of 10 because of This Is a Long Drive, their other album, because I feel like that album generally ekes out above. And I was like, if I give this a 9.5, I feel like I have to give that one a 10. And so I had to think about that of like in comparison, which I don't want to do too much of like, oh, this place is next to this. I just want to think about how is this album. But I feel like just because they're so close to me, and it's like, if I think that album is perfect and this one is just a little bit less than that, then it has to be a 9.5.
Yeah, I would agree. So, if anybody wants to join us in listening to these albums, I would say that the way that we've been listening to them, and this isn't like a structure that we've developed, but how we've been going through these listenings is, and we might recap this at the beginning of an episode every once in a while, but like we'll do one listen through that is just like a vibe listen through.
Yeah.
And then we have another listen through where we'll maybe take like a little bit more nuanced notes, and then we'll have like a really critical listen near at the end.
Yeah. I feel like at least 3 is like you gotta have the just listening into the car as you happen to be on a long drive, you listen to that album. One where you're doing some menial thing and you can be thinking about it, and then where you just sit in a dark room, you listen to it, you have a pen and a paper. You gotta go through all 3 of those to really have genuine thoughts about, like, have critical thoughts about the album. I feel like
it's the same thing where it's like when somebody says they've read a book, and really what they mean is they've skimmed through a lot of the bullet points of it. It's like, you haven't really read the book.
Yeah. I've just realized now with our camera angles, I look so much shorter than you because I'm like,
well, you
middle of
are
the frame, and you're I'm not that much shorter than you. I'm shorter than you. How tall are you?
I'm 6'4".
Dang.
You say that like we haven't
tiny.
standed next to
I
each
know.
other.
I know you're tall. I just like I look tiny because my head's here, and like next to you, that's like under your chin, which I feel like I at least make it to your nose, the top of my head. So I'm like this tall, I feel like. But again, I'm closer to the camera, so it looks.
This is the drama that breaks the podcast.
Yeah. I'm done with you. At the end of every podcast, we should say that we're quitting the podcast.
Okay.
That would be fun.
All right, guys, we're quitting the podcast
This is our final
right now.
episode. Thank you all for joining. It's been a ride. This is the last time you'll ever hear from us. This is the last time you'll ever hear from Seth, at least.
Yeah.
None of you will ever hear again. If you have any final wishes you'd want to make to him before you never see him again, do that. You're Velvet Ear on everything.
Yes.
I don't know if you care about that.
No.
Not just my name, Isaiah Sabo, everywhere.
Cool.
I guess my band's named the Giant and Run the Race Kid, but
Before we film our next episode, we'll get a little bit more nuanced on how we want to structure the endings and beginnings of these episodes, because I feel like we never did that.
yeah. We just want to get it out, though, so this one's going up unedited, so you're going to love all the silence for sure.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, we're
All
releasing this tomorrow, by the way. Okay, bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.